welcome to our webinar with Michael Strickland and Bryan Todd, and we are talking about the most USP. And hopefully by the time we're done here, you'll find out that it's really not lowly at all. It's actually in all and Strickland, and I got Bryan here who's leading the charge. So Bryan.
All right. Well, Perry's audio was cutting in and out there, so you probably missed most of what he said. Perry, you made.
I thought my hearing was going there, Bryan,
Yeah.
for a second. Wait a second.
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
Perry may need to log in or call in some other way, because
I'll try to fix that.
Yeah. So while Perry is busy with that, yeah, this is the topic here is, I cannot imagine a topic more fundamentally important to all of business than this. And the actual coaching material and written material on this subject, you could barely fill a briefcase with, and it would be a thin, small briefcase, and you could buy all the books written on the topic and there would still be room to spare. Okay? And like, so little has been said about this, and it is so massively valuable to a business to get this right. So as Perry said, we have Michael Strickland on, who has since become a Perry Marshall Planet Perry rock star. And so Michael, hey, it's great to have you on. Welcome.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So,
hello, Chicago.
Thank you, Cleveland. And so Michael is on, and he's gonna tell us his peculiar and fascinating story of how the breakthrough that he thought he was going to get. That is beautiful. The breakthrough he thought he was going to get.
Doing these from a bus station sometimes is not always a good idea. You know?
Exactly.
No, I don't want the churro. I don't want the churro. And by the way, Bryan, this is John Mendoza. Real quick, Josh is on Skype ID Planet Perry. So if you have to ask him anything, back to you, Bryan.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Speed Selling. So Michael experienced a significant breakthrough when he did a bobsled run with us back in 2011, and he thought it was going to be because we're going to help him totally kick butt with his AdWords, and his greatest breakthrough actually was not about AdWords at all. So Michael, I've got the slides here, and you are the welcome narrator, and I'll guide you through this to whatever degree you need. But why don't you tell us a little of the background of this story here?
Yeah, I mean, to sort of just be quick about it, I found Perry and Bryan and all the good folks at Planet Perry probably a way a lot of people do, which was through I bought the book, The Ultimate Guide to Google AdWords, because I really needed to take control of my AdWords account and get really productive with it. So I signed up for Bobsled Run, and I really thought that it was going to be all about the AdWords training, and that I was just going to come out of it being an AdWords ninja. So on one of the first webinars of Bobsled, I was fortunate to be chosen for a hot seat, and I thought, okay, great. Now we're gonna talk about what to split test, and how to write better headlines, and what kind of copy I can do to really separate me from the rest of the pack. And Perry on the webinar, I remember I was so excited, I was fired up, and Perry just hit me with the question, well, why should I buy from you? And I was stopped in my tracks, and there was silence for a while, and I was like, well, because I'm, a good company, we're honest people, and, which was sort of, as we'll go through the slides, sort of what my company was formulated around. And he was just like, nah, that's not it. That's not good enough. What? Why you? And he just kept hitting me with the why you question. When I have all these choices out there, why you? And I was really just like a deer in the headlights. I was caught in my tracks. And sort of through this session, and I think it was, somebody else on the call was, talking about, well, what about an insurance guarantee or something. For those that don't know too, I'm in the auto transport industry. And yeah, if you want to advance the slides, prior to joining Bobsled Run, the name of my company was Honesty First Auto Transport. And my whole premise, what I thought was my USP was, well, we're the folks that are really going to shoot you straight with all of the info, and we're not going to try any shady sales tactics or this or that. And when I formed it, I really thought was a really solid selling point, and that did separate me. But I found out through Planet Perry that just wasn't a sharp enough blade, basically. So, we came up with this insurance guarantee. And so where we stand behind our carriers, because we're a brokerage, so what we actually offer is, if you're going to transport a car, we're like the ultimate vetting process for getting your carrier, because we're so selective about our carriers, and we stand behind them with this guarantee. So if we go to the next slide, we came up with this offer that was, if and sort of gave us this standalone thing that we are the only people that will make a damage-free guarantee, which is, our carriers, first, they're not going to damage your car, but a small percentage of them do incur damage, and those that do incur damage, the carrier takes care of it, because we use good people. And if they don't, we back them up with this thing that says, we will pay you if they don't do it. And that became a separation point from me and the rest of the industry. And it's totally changed my AdWords. It made it so that the ads basically start to write themselves, for lack of a better thing. It's like I went from like, how do I say, we can ship your car and this or that, to, now I can say, home of the only damage-free guarantee. And those sorts of things. So
now, that is fantastic. I mean, there's so much in there. Number one is that you decided to make your USP the guarantee, which, by the way, is a great way to do a USP, but it's not the only thing a person has to do in order to say, hey, I have a USP. But it is a great place to start. So that's exactly what you did. You talked about how ads write themselves. Do you mind commenting? I know you shared this with at least me and maybe another group of people once before. Do you mind commenting on the image that we see here on the upper left?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
How that plays into this as well.
Yeah. So, and the slides that you see sort of in the site makeover are all a result of things that I learned through Planet Perry and things about, keeping everything above the fold and keeping all of this stuff. And at one point when we were going over, the USP and redoing the website, I had an image of a car carrier, an open car carrier, like you see new cars on all the time. That's basically what we're in the business of doing, is getting you set up with something like that. And we were on a call going over the website, and Bryan had said, and I think it was even sort of as we were wrapping up talking about my website, he just sort of said, this picture here, it's great, and I know that's what you do, and it's the image associated, we talked about relevancy. It's like it totally hits the relevancy thing. People know that that's what they're there for. But I'm slightly worried about my car. And so he had mentioned, he made the example that when airlines make advertisements, they don't show people sitting in coach.
No.
They show the people in first class, or they show some image that gives that essence of that. So I went back to my graphic designer and said, I need something that just says, your car is going to go first class and it's going to be handled with kid gloves. And I sort of threw out the idea of this on a pillow, which I think the man in the suit with a pillow is an iStock photo, and the souped up Mustang. Is my graphic designer is also into muscle cars, so that's actually his vehicle. It's actually a nice dark charcoal gray, but so he let me dress her up in baby blue, which didn't make him happy, but it matched the website a little better. He was a little reluctant to change the color to what I wanted, but
now that's kind of making me chuckle. But but the takeaway here is that actually that just continues the message in a completely different way, or at least a completely different, what is it, a modality? In other words, you're not reading words on a page, you're now seeing an image that also conveys that, you know, your vehicle is safe with us. And of course, you back it up with your damage-free guarantee, which is fantastic.
Yep.
So,
and then
go ahead.
Go ahead. I mean, if we want to talk about, you know, just sort of the improvement that we saw in our AdWords account, we've got a couple of slides for that. So basically, you know, I went through bobsled, and you know, we did do a lot of stuff to learn how to structure the account and, you know, learn what's working and what's not. But even just changing out the USP, we altered obviously our company name, and I tested a bunch of different URLs and found the one that tested the best. And what we saw was just a huge jump in our AdWords, which was sort of the icing on the cake.
So there's nothing wrong with the idea of you being honest.
Right.
The problem with honesty as a USP, for example, is it's really hard to quantify it.
Right.
And, you know.
Well, and I remember I was on the call. It was during bobsled run, and I remember, I think it was even before I came forward, but then everybody was talking about this and that, and the term honesty came up, and Perry said, if anybody tells you they're honest, they're probably the least honest person in the room. Run the other way. Right? If you have to tell somebody you're honest, then I was like, uh-oh.
Isn't that special?
I think I'm next in line, too.
Hi, my name is Honest Bob.
Yeah.
I apologize for contributing, you know, a little cynicism into the world.
Right.
It wasn't really my intention.
But it's true. You know, I mean, the funny thing is, I was sort of, when I chose that name, I was sort of the first in the industry to do that, and now I'm seeing honest auto movers left and right, you know, and all of this stuff that's the same way. I still haven't seen anybody trying to knock off the Safe Direct thing, but I'm sure I will.
Meanwhile,
how about we'll only steal your hubcaps, auto movers?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you've moved on from honesty and are now, you know, have a guarantee. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But well, actually, you've moved on from that as a theme, and now you have an actual guarantee,
right,
which has resulted in actual numbers.
Yeah. So these are, you know, and this graph is taken, you know, a 3-month period just prior to our change, and then a 3-month period this summer. So the red line that you see is where we were in terms of the conversions that we were getting. And the blue line obviously is where it took us to. And as you can see, it's like we you know, a 300% increase in our clicks with 13% less impressions. Our cost per conversion came down 62%. So we just started, you know, throwing fuel on the fire and trying to get traffic wherever we could. So
that's fantastic. Oh, do we mention your number of conversions increased by 709%?
Yeah, we did a change in the allocation of the budget once we saw the conversions start to drop. So yeah, we just started taking as many as we can get.
That is fantastic. And so, well, all right, and like, so the first major big step that indicates that you're doing this the right way is you just get better click-through rates, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you're a sensible direct marketer now. If you weren't before, you are now. And you know to follow your nose to what the world out there is actually responding to. It's important to note, and we're going to get to this later, that the final arbiter of a good USP is not you, it's not your friends, it's not your coach or your consultant, it's the audience and the buyers out there. They are the final court of decision there. But I'll have more to say about that in just a little bit. So conversions obviously up. Cost of traffic here obviously way down. Cost per conversion, yeah, 63%. That's kind of significant. So,
well, and the biggest thing is that I was just going to go into this. This is the biggest thing because this was something that Perry and Bryan and Jack and everybody was working with me on, which is that idea that I had never really, I never went to business school or anything, so Planet Perry has sort of been my graduate business program. But moving from selling a process to selling a result. And I realized as soon as they said that, I looked at my name and I looked at my thing and I said, Honesty First Auto Transport. To tell someone, hey, we're going to be honest through the process is selling a process. Whereas to say, we're going to get your car there, it's going to go door to door, and it's going to get there safe is selling a result. So that was a huge step for me.
And Perry's famous quote is always, sell results, not procedures.
Yeah.
And the first angle that you always want to go after, and this is a writer downer. The first angle you always want to test or go after with a new USP is, do you offer a different deliverable than anyone else? Do you offer a different result than anyone else? Do you guarantee a different result than anyone else is willing to guarantee? And so you were able to do that. Now, one huge objection people always have is, if I offer if I guarantee something, is that going to come back and bite me financially because I'm going to, have to fulfill all of, these refund requests or complaint requests or something like that? How did that work out for you? I don't know if we've ever even asked you this.
It was brought up recently when we were talking. I think when we were talking about USP in the current bobsled run, they said the right USP should make you feel a little bit sick. Not even a little bit sick. It should make you feel sick to your stomach.
Yeah.
And I remember when this was thrown out to me, I remember it took me a few days after that webinar where I was in the hot seat. I walked around in a stupor for 2 days because I was like, I don't know what just happened to me. But, and can I really do something like this insurance guarantee that they're saying would be so great?
Was that the primary thing that had you in the stupor? That you're like, God, I don't know if I can deal with it.
I don't know. Yeah, because I have to deal with carriers, and can I take responsibility? And there's so many yahoos out there, and yeah, I was just like, I don't know if I could do it. I'm going to be paying everybody left and right, and so I was scared out of my mind. But that was about a year and a half ago. So our guarantee is basically the way it's structured is that we will pay, if the carrier's insurance falls through for whatever reason, we will, and the customer has to use their own insurance, we'll pay their deductible, right? Most people's deductible is around $500. So we were like, okay, it's sort of, it's a managed risk situation.
Right.
So I was like, okay, but I just saw myself shilling out, $500 everywhere to everybody. In a year and a half, I have had to pay out on this USP 3 times.
Wow.
So for $1,500, I'm able to position myself in a way where I get the business results that you saw in terms of the traffic that I'm pulling in.
That is a writer downer. Do you mind saying it again? For $1,500.
For $1,500, I'm able to position myself against my competition in such a way where I'm pulling massively more traffic based on my USP. That roughly costs me about $100 a month when I have to pay out on it.
That is
so. Because when you have those guarantees, and everybody had said this, you're going to have to pay out on it. There are going to be sometimes people are going to call you out on it. Sometimes people are just going to, for whatever reason.
I have never known otherwise.
Yeah, they're just going to say, some people maybe just, some people it's legit. Some people may be trying to game the system. You can't worry about those. You just have to move forward.
Well, my contention is somebody's going to take the risk, and if the guy that moves your car won't take the risk, why should the customer?
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's going to scratch a car.
Yeah.
Are the people that move cars going to admit it, or are they going to pretend that there's never any problem?
Well, the great thing about it too is that it just influences every area now, because now we're so much more refined in terms of who we will use and who we won't.
Mm.
And we're removing carriers from our list all the time. If they even start to look like a problem, we're like, can't risk it. We just can't risk it.
And those guys are a dime a dozen.
Right. And then
it's not like you can't find anybody.
Right. And then it allows us also to charge more, because people will pay more for that kind of service. So people may come to us and say, hey, you're $100 more than your competitor. It's like, yeah, well, are they giving you an insurance guarantee? If you want to save $100, go with them. So it just continues to influence every area.
So, like, just off the top of my head, bold guarantee buys you, obviously it bought you more clicks, more conversions, tremendous growth in traffic. It only cost you, has thus far only cost you $1,500. Massive return on investment there. You said it gave you the ability to write ads and have them just sort of flow off your pen. So you could write ads, you could write landing page copy. Anytime, in other words, you were called upon to write something, you already had fodder to work with.
Right.
And it changed the way it re-engineered the way you, I don't know if hire is the word, of the way you, the people that you do business or that you hire in order to transport the cars. Because now you're clear about what you're looking for, and they have to, deliver the goods and not damage the vehicles. And gee, what else did you just summarize that I forgot or missed?
Bryan, this is John. I think one of the things that this does, which has not been brought up, is my guess is that it reduces the length of time it takes somebody to decide whether or not they're going to ship a car or not with him. Because people are going out there, they're banging a lot of different websites. Your site looks different. You have the guarantee, and they have probably a lot fewer questions. So your cost of sale actually goes down, because they don't have to sit there and say, well, okay, how do you know it isn't some, meth head driving the truck, or how do you know this and that? Because you've taken that off the table. So they don't have to do the level of in-depth due diligence, because they're counting on you doing it, and they would rather you do it than they would have to do it.
That's the exact reason why when I first got out of the Dilbert Cube, I went and bought a suit at Nordstrom instead of JCPenney. I knew that when I walked out of Nordstrom, actually, Laura knew this.
God
bless
Laura.
I don't know how I should dress. I mean, but Laura does. And, so we go to the mall, and 3 minutes in this one store and 5 minutes in JCPenney, and she's like, nah. And she just makes a beeline. I'm like, oh, they're going to sell me a $500 sport coat. She's like, yeah, and you'll look right. And the tailoring will be done correctly. Okay, and it won't look like Garanimals. And so, $1,200 later, I am the proud owner of a slacks and and a jacket and a shirt. And so I go to my first meeting, and I'm like, I look right, because they told me.
Yeah, but you intuitively knew you looked right anyway.
Well,
and that
yeah,
really
I did
change the chemistry of how you talked with people, negotiated, consulted, whatever.
Yeah, if I go to Penny's and spend $400, I might look right. And if I go to Nordstrom and I spend $1,200, I will definitely look right. Well, so bring this back to USP, okay? When people, they're searching and they're comparing and they got this problem they got to solve, how fast can you communicate to this person that this is absolutely going to do what they want it to do?
Now, careful, Perry, because you're playing into the next set of slides I'm about to show. um, but yeah, like how difficult a decision can it be made into? I like the quote that Glenn Livingston always shares, and it's not original to him, but I heard it from him first, where he says, "A confused mind says no, a clear mind says go." And when your USP makes that clear, then people can take action. Michael, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say Jack had thrown something out recently that I think it was at the event in Chicago, because I came back and I quickly told all of my sales staff, I said, if anybody questions why we're more expensive, and you're going through the process of explaining the insurance guarantee, Jack had said that, quote, when you buy the best, you only cry once. Right, and I thought, that's it. And I said, that's sort of, that's our thing. I mean, I said, throw that out to people. It's like, well, listen, I mean, we may be more expensive, but the expense up front is the only time you're going to cry. We're going to take care of it the rest of the way. And when you can step forward and say something like that. Yeah.
It's a 66 Mustang. We can get as many of these as we want.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You dropped a grill on the trunk and creased it in the middle. Oh, we'll just go get another one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you can
Right.
you can always say, well, that baby will buff out. That'll be fine. We'll just buff it out.
There you go.
Just to throw in quickly, because I know as Josh said, one of the questions that somebody had was, are we making more money? Yeah, sales doubled this year, and so did my income. And it's really a result of the USP and the working with the folks at Planet Perry, which is why they've become like my drug of choice. I don't drink, I don't smoke, but I'll drink up anything these guys tell me. So.
Well, I love that.
Rebasing USP.
Yeah, and now you're a celebrity too. So,
Yeah.
Right. Michael pointed out to me this morning that this is probably the single coolest headshot that you will ever see of any advertising expert or direct marketing guru at any point in the last 150 years. I have to agree with Michael. You're looking at the photo of a gentleman by the name of Rosser Reeves. Boy, is he stern. Is he ever stern? My goodness.
He's no BS.
He is, boy, he is intimidating me just as I sit and stare at this. So he doesn't directly say so, but my understanding from history is that the term USP does in fact date back to this person. USP, of course, means unique selling proposition, and he has this book that you can go look for it, and you'll certainly maybe find PDFs of it online if you go dig far enough and deep enough. But if you want to own an actual hard copy of this book, it's not in print anymore. It's called Reality in Advertising by Rosser Reeves, and if you want to find this book in print, you'll probably pay, like, the lowest price I saw on it was $105 online.
That's about what I paid for my copy.
Yeah, and Mendoza has his copy, and I know he paid a pretty penny for it as well. It's a rare book, but it's a book very much in demand, as evidenced by the price. Why is this book in demand? Because he does, for his particular area of expertise, what Claude Hopkins did for his half a century earlier, and basically takes marketing truths and breaks them down into incredibly well distilled little sound bites. So there are three things that Rosser Reeves taught us about USP, and I can assure you that the tiny fraction of, well, okay, there are lots of people saying out there that you need a USP, but they're not going to articulate it anywhere near this clearly. So there are three things that Rosser Reeves said in that book that you must know and understand in order to get your unique selling proposition correct. Number one, each advertisement must make a proposition to the consumer. Not just words, not just product puffery, not just show window advertising. Each advertisement must say to each reader buy this product and you will get this specific benefit. Okay? So a clear proposition to the customer. Buy this and this is the benefit you will get. However you want to word that, make sure that that is the message that you have communicated. Number 2, the proposition must be one that the competition either cannot or does not offer. It must be unique, either a uniqueness of the brand or a claim not otherwise made in that particular field of advertising. Okay, so is having a guarantee unique in the larger world of advertising? No, not at all. Is having a specific insurance guarantee for auto transport unique? Evidently, Mr. Michael Strickland, it is. And you won't find anyone else in that specific field who is offering that. Or if they are offering it, they're sticking it, back on the 3rd page or something so that, nobody finds out about it. But
yeah, but it's also one of those things where it's like, and they had said this, it's not something that I just sort of, put together and stick in my cap and then just ride on. I'm continually looking for like, okay, how can I refine this and make it, even more, because people are gonna start doing it. 5 years ago when I first started my own company, nobody was doing or everybody was charging a deposit up front, and we were one of the first companies to say, no, we're not going to charge a deposit up front. We'll trust that the customer is going to pay us when we get the job done. Now everybody does that. So I'm waiting to see when somebody knocks me off and sort of ready to have my next revision in line to continue to be unique.
Now you spurred a little phrase in my thinking, but I'm going to save it for just another minute because it's very, very important that we understand this little phrase because it's illustrated by what you just said, Michael. But yeah, the industry will grow and change. But see, you're on the cutting edge of it, so that's why you're unique. There's a third bit that's very, very important. And again, I said earlier, the audience out there, or your market, your customers, they are the final court of appeals here in determining whether or not you really actually have a USP. Why is that? Because of point number 3. The proposition, Reeves says, must be so strong that it can move the mass millions. That is to say, pull over new customers to your product. Okay? Lots and lots and lots of folks out there think they have a USP because they've said something about themselves that no one else is saying. And it is absolutely indispensable that you be able to say something about yourself that no one else can say about themselves. But if you test it in your ads, your landing page copy, the letters you mail out, your videos, your TV commercials, radio ads, if you test it and it doesn't result in more people coming and buying, then you don't have a USP. Okay? So, you must make a statement, as Reeves said, that is a statement of promise and benefit. It must be unique, and it must be proven over time in the actual marketplace to get people to buy. All right? So very important. I just have to thank John Paul Mendoza, who you heard, for sharing, for letting me peer into the copy of his very expensive book and get these little sound bites. John, is there anything you want to add to the esteemed Mr. Reeves here?
Yes, I do. Rosser Reeves, in my mind, who was known as the master of the hard sell, and not to take anything away from all these other guys who were actually out there in advertising, it's interesting because the USP is something that he not only believed in, but this is the only place I've ever found it in print by somebody who actually, did it all the time, day in and day out. And all I can say is that I believe that he understood more about how to glue together an advertisement that matched this. And most of the stuff that people called unique later on And even today, most of it is not unique. Most of it does not fit out there because most people don't have the courage to do what Michael has shared with today, which is he made something that was pretty strong, put it out on the table, and has stood behind it. And, you know, I believe that Rosser would agree wholeheartedly with you. And as far as what you do as you move forward in the market and the market progresses, well, there's a lot of things to do. But the great start is to have a USP which tilts the industry. Because if you're doing that, the industry is following you. You're the leader. And that's really critical. And I think that Reeves clearly talks about that and the importance of that leadership position and what that means.
Yeah, so, you know, would anyone object that Michael accomplished all three of Reeves' points here? The, you know, the clear statement of benefit that you get, or your differentiating point, the fact that it was something that the rest of the market is not doing, and proof in the numbers that it actually did result in more people coming and buying. I don't know. Perry can disagree if he wants to disagree. Michael can disagree if he wants to disagree, but I think we succeeded. Go ahead, Perry.
In doing this, Michael became the tail that wagged the dog. Now, if you know anything about this particular market, like it's a whole bunch of brokers, basically affiliates slitting each other's throats, you know, trying to outspend each other, out-advertise each other, underbid each other. It's awful. It's just awful. Michael basically changed the game here so that he now is in charge. It's a little tiny bit like, you know, when you sell to Walmart, Walmart is the boss. Everybody that's ever worked at a company that sells through a huge retailer like that knows. If you ever you get you buy a kid's toy that you're supposed to assemble, and there's a big sticker on the box that says, "Do not return to store. Call this number." Okay, do you know why that sticker's there? It's because if enough of those boxes come back to Walmart, Walmart says, "You're done. See you later. We're not selling this anymore. Too much of a pain in the butt." And why? Because Walmart, even though they're just, the product is just passing through, they've become the tail that wags the dog. Michael did the same thing. He did this in a cutthroat commodity market where it's really hard to tell people apart. He made it easy to tell people apart, and it put him in charge. Now, what I want to communicate here is that it's possible, if you go through the whole process, for almost anybody to do this. So you got all kinds of people listening today who have varying degrees of control over what they sell. Some people, you know, you do some kind of service for somebody and you have complete control over it, and it could change tomorrow. There's other people, you got this product and it's sitting on the shelf and you have to sell it. There's other people that are reselling other people's stuff. So there's all kinds of situations. I just want you to notice Michael categorically was the kind of guy who has the least amount of control because he was, quote unquote, just a middleman. When he decided to take on the USP mantle and really wear it, he no longer was the middleman. He became the guy who drove the transaction. And that is what this is about. And your ass is going to get kicked until you control the transaction and you control the value proposition.
That's awesome. I'll just add the comment.
Add to that too.
Yeah, I'll add the comment, and then Michael, you can talk. The plan on this being an arms race. Okay, like you may see one or two advertisers sooner or later mimic your guarantee, or you may see all the companies out there mimic your guarantee. Most of them will do it stupidly, and that's okay. There will always be one or two or three who go to war with you intelligently, but you plan on it being an arms race. You know, so for example, a few years ago, you were the first one to not require a deposit. Well, everyone followed. So now you need to come up with a new angle. That's okay. You can do that. It's, imitation being the sincerest form of flattery. People will imitate you. It'll be an indication that you're doing something good. But plan on it being an arms race, and know that if you're well enough armed with the right tools, you can continue to craft new, updated, fresh USPs. Michael, what were you going to say?
Oh, I forgot. I got so lost in that. No, it sort of added to the sickness of having to back up a guarantee like that too. When we first sort of transitioned to it, all of my salespeople thought I was absolutely nuts, and they were all kind of reluctant. And I was like, "Just work with me, guys. This is the direction we're going." And it was out of the gates. It was a little rough, and I questioned it a bunch of times, and then it just started to pay dividends.
So speaking of, that's like, yeah, I'm speaking of paying dividends for you. I think the first people you had to convince was your own salespeople. Well, actually, you were the first person you had to convince, followed by your own salespeople, followed by the rest of the market. And I don't know, would you say it worked?
Yeah. Yeah, somebody had asked this, interestingly. Yeah. This was just a 3-month period over this summer too. This summer versus last summer, and as you can see, our sales pretty much doubled, and our advertising was cut in half. So I can't ask for better than that.
Right. So in a sense, you invested in the USP because you were ready and willing to write the checks and so on to cover the deductibles in the 3 cases that you had to. Obviously, you were willing to pay the money to be in bobsled run the very first time.
Well, and this is just a 3-month period too, and the only reason that June and through August of last year in terms of education and training was a 0 is that I didn't have an item line for it last year, but my accountant said, "You're spending so much money now doing this training, we need to expense it, to its own thing." So we had to kind of create its own category, because I started to just sort of like, when you see an ROI on money spent anywhere, whether it's in an advertising direction or, in this case, it was very much in my education, because I was learning all kinds of things that I had no idea about. You continue to go after and mine the gold from that area. So still,
That's excellent. So yeah, so you added the education and training row to your budget, and
people, we sort of laughed off the drug comment, but it's like, here it is. I started with a bobsled run, and that's where I am now, and I made the decision next year to become a member of Roundtable, which is another huge investment, where it's like it can become like a drug, where all of a sudden you're paying for every hit you can get, So, but again, the number one result is the bottom line, as you can see. Even the net income, which is my sort of profit over salary for that 3-month period, was a nice return. So I'm on board.
Michael, fortunately for you, vast majority of your competitors would never make investments like that, which means they're always going to be copying you after you did it and not understanding the thinking process and all the discussion and all the other options. So normally when you come out with something, there's like 5 different ways you could have done it, and you pick one and you do it and you go out there. But what they don't know is that, if too many people start imitating you, you're just going to take a click on the dial and you're going to move it to option number 2 or option number 3. And when we have a mastermind meeting or a consultation, we don't know that door number 1 was going to be better than door number 4. We just had experience that it tended to be better the last few times. So you've always got these options, and the bottom line ends up being that you're the leader in the marketplace, and it's way easier to be number 1 than to be number 5. Number
Oh,
5 is a bloodbath.
yep.
What were you going to say, Mike?
Well, I was going to say, the other thing that I'm really learning now, and we don't have this this image or this thing, I don't think, tied into these slides, but is that monopoly effect, where once you get a foothold, it's like the game of Monopoly. You get a hotel on your property, and all of a sudden you're able to charge more. That enables you to go out and buy more hotels on your other properties until finally you just control the board. And that's where I'm finding now it's like, okay, now I've got this, it's working, it's increasing the income. Now where can I go out and buy more hotels, basically?
In Monopoly, buying that first house, well, okay if I use the word quantum leap, because buying a house in Monopoly is a quantum leap. And so, Perry, you want to comment on that?
Well, yeah, so, I have to say, since most people in my audience started out with Google AdWords and learning that, what you learn in Google AdWords 101 is optimization. It's like, okay, I can optimize and I can improve my return on investment 4 to 1, or maybe 6 to 1, or it's pretty good, okay? Well, so that's great. And frankly, most businesses don't do it. So if you just know how to optimize, you have this really nice edge over everybody else. But optimization is not the same thing as a brand new innovation. You should never confuse the two. Okay, so like what Michael did with his USP was not this incrementally, I changed this word, or I changed this paragraph, or I changed this picture. It was an entirely different proposition. Okay, and that's where you get quantum leaps. Okay, so like in competitive markets, optimization will just keep you at even. It'll keep you from falling behind the competition. But if you want to leapfrog past the competition, you need to introduce a new element that nobody else is giving people that turns everybody's head. And you don't get that from just, well, let me try this, let me try this, let me try this. It's two completely different things. So this is what USPs are really about. In getting down to the real core reasons of why somebody would or wouldn't buy from you. Like the question that I asked Michael, okay, so why should I buy from you? Like, tell me a good reason.
So, one of the things Michael pointed out was marketing obviously became easier. Certainly, just in the sense of sitting down and writing ads became easier. And, get it wrong and everything else is an uphill challenge. Perry shared time and time again, I have experienced this, other advertisers have experienced this, that when they don't really have a difference maker, a really good USP, it's difficult to write good marketing, and it's difficult to find a message that gets actual clicks and gets actual conversions. But you get it right, and marketing suddenly becomes easier. And I said that what Rosser Reeves wrote in the book, number one, you can't get the book for less than $100 on Amazon. His summation of USP is actually very succinct. You saw the core elements of it. And year in and year out, I observe that lots of marketers, lots of coaches, and so on tell you, need a USP, need to give yourself a USP, build a USP, give them a USP, people. But they never tell you exactly how to create one. So that has changed. And John Mendoza is on. And John, would you like to share what we have here for folks?
Absolutely. So let me jump in, and there's a couple things that I think are really critical about this. And Bryan, you've touched on them, Perry, you've touched on them, and Michael, obviously you've lived this. And that is, if you discover and put together a USP, you will in fact find that it alters and changes your business dramatically. In fact, it might even take you into a whole different business than you had before because your customers connect with you differently. And Rosser came up with, I think, a brilliant idea. And as Bryan has alluded to, my copy was served as the point of pulling this excerpts out. My first copy of the book I bought, I paid $1 for, and I lent it out, and I never got it back. When I eventually got my copy, because I wanted a really good quality copy, I ended up paying $375. And it is absolutely the only book that sits on my desk every day. Now, I got to tell you, just by having that is powerful. But the real question is how are you going to get to that USP? How are you going to find a way to do that? And I can tell you that you need to have a system and a methodology. And that's exactly what Bryan and Perry have done. If you think about what Einstein said is everything should be as simple as possible, but not simpler. A USP cuts through all the clutter, cuts through all of the confusion, and gets right to the point. So what we're going to do is we have this USB breakthrough, and there are a couple of webinars, and there's some tools that we're going to talk about. So webinar number 1 is the 6-step process. This is the first time I've ever seen it in my entire career, but a step-by-step process, a method by which you can go through and create a USP. You don't have to go into some sweat lodge. You don't have to go to some mountaintop. You don't have to go chew peyote buttons. You don't have to hope for divine intervention. You've got a step-by-step process. The amazing part about it is that if you go through the process, you're going to end up with a USP. Webinar number 2 then takes that USP and adds in the marketing element. So you can see the kinds of things that a USP can do and how it's going to affect your AdWords ads, your landing pages, your emails, your hiring. It affects everything that you do to get your message from you to connect with the customers. And because of that, you're going to end up with this enormous breakthrough. Then we have some tools. And action resource number 1 is a full question resource guide. And what I want Bryan to do is explain to us what exactly this is. To me, it is absolutely brilliant. Bryan?
It's actually so simple, it's funny. We take the 6-step process and we break it down into a set of questions for you to ask that will create new breakthroughs, new ideas for breakthroughs, or just greater clarity on how you're already special. So that's action resource number 1. And there's a second tool, and action resource number 2 we're going to give you. This is also simple. In other words, it doesn't consume pages and pages and pages. It's a USP marketing checklist, and the idea is very simply, what are all the ways and all the places that you could actually use your USP or state your USP or show people that you're different that you haven't thought of. Everything from your Google ads to your landing page copy to things like key fobs and business cards and coffee mugs and t-shirts. So we're going to give you a list of those things. And then number 3 is in your marketing, if you are ever stuck and you're like, I want to write a message to my customers, or I want to send an email, or I want to write a letter, I want to do a video, but I have no idea what I'm going to do it about. And particularly, I have no idea how to tie this into how I'm actually different and special. Because a good USP is something you want to tell people about over and over again. This little new content idea generator, it's simple, it's just a couple of pages, easy to use. You will never have to worry about it. Just go open the idea generator, take 20 seconds, and boom, you've got a new idea for some new message you can send out. And know that it always ties back to how you're really special. So, Perry, you want to describe the guarantee here to people? It's a 4-part guarantee.
Yes. So we're going to go through a step-by-step process, and by the time you get to the end of the second webinar, you will have some new dimension of value that you did not realize that you had. Really, what this is all about is taking your story and your offer in some new direction that you've never taken it before. And we're going to get you there. By the time you've gone through the process, regardless of what it is you sell, we're going to have somehow reinvented it. So then, when you offer it to customers, it boosts your customers and the quality of your buyers. Secondly, you'll be offering some kind of guarantee of performance, of actual results to your customers that nobody in your marketplace is giving. So even if you're duking it out with 100 advertisers, you're the only one that they can get X from. Number three, you can apply this also to your free offers. Now, this is a really important thing, okay? Because most of us are generating leads. We're generating opt-ins. We're capturing information. USP applies just as much to what you give away as to what you sell. If you used to be getting a 14% opt-in rate and now you're only getting a 9% opt-in rate because everybody has a free report and it's frankly kind of boring, or a lot of times you can spike that by taking the USP formula, applying it to what you're giving away. So whatever generates leads. And number four, this is not going to be quantum physics. This is not going to be rocket science. You're not going to have to take peyote or something. This is actually easy, straightforward. There's no ice pick in your head. Those are the four things that we're guaranteeing from this. You get all four of these things, or you get your money back. You'll truly be differentiated from everybody in the marketplace. The price is $499. A lot of you are spending that in a week or even a day on Google. For that price, we're going to completely change your whole experience. And then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, John is actually a crucial part of this next little bit. So John, you want to describe this offer for the top 5 entrepreneurs?
Well, and I want to point out something. If you learn how to systematically build USPs, and you can do that, and you can make that happen, the kinds of results that Michael showed are not going to be this once-in-a-lifetime fluke thing, because I believe that that is how powerful the concept is. We decided that $4.99, that is, I think, a tremendous value, because you're going to learn something that's going to change you for the rest of your business life. Whatever you want to advocate, whatever you want to sell, whatever you want to do. Now, for 5 individuals out there, 5 people, we're going to do what we call a Ninja Dojo. And that is, you come to Jacksonville, you spend an entire day, this will be in December, and it's going to be a powerful workshop on USP. And what's going to happen is Bryan's going to be there, I'm going to be there, Matt Glogli is going to be there, and Jack Bourne. The 4 of us are going to go through 5 businesses, and we're going to go through those businesses top to bottom. We're not going to hold back. If you've ever seen this crew, we're not going to be sitting there being, all soft and squishy. We're not going to have some group hugs. There may be some tears, but at the end of it, what you're going to do is you're going to get what you need as an enormous breakthrough. Now, it's December 4th. There's only 5 people. The investment is $5,000. And what I can tell you is that any one of us would charge more than that individually. And you get all 4 of us, and we're going to spend some time and get serious. And not only do you see one, but you see 4 other businesses. So if you really want to get an enormous breakthrough and blow 2013 out of the water and take all that you're going to learn through the USP breakthrough program, what you're going to discover is that you're going to have a very different business in 2013. And some of you, I predict, are going to end up like Michael with a breakthrough that's going to allow you to say, wow, what can I learn next? What can I do next? How can I implement some things? And by doing that, you're going to see breakthroughs just like Michael has seen breakthroughs. Michael, would you agree that since you've now had that breakthrough, that literally it has changed your entire business, but it's really changed your entire life? Because no longer are you sitting there saying, boy, I hope we're going to get these deals. You're now saying, in 1 week, we're getting what we used to get in a month. Is that a fair characterization, Michael?
Absolutely, without question. It puts you in a different position, sort of like Perry touched on too, where it really focuses us on our marketplace. When somebody comes to us and they've got a beat up car that they're just trying to get across country that is cheap as can be, my salespeople are very polite, but they'll say, we're not the company for you, because it's not what we do. And so it really is, you get to, when you position yourself that way, you get to be the person that steps up and says, okay, you're not interested, next, and just, move through it. And yeah, you don't worry about it so much. So I still worry about plenty of things, but I'm much happier with the problems I have this year than what I had last year. So
the point of USB breakthrough, thank you, Michael. The point of USB breakthrough is quite simply this: 2 webinars, Bryan's 6-step process that has been honed over a number of years, Perry's guarantee, the 3 resources, which is the full question resource guide, the marketing checklist, and the new content idea generator, all for $499. It's going to be kicking off sooner than later. And then for 5 of you who are lucky enough or brave enough or courageous enough to say, you know what, I really want to just kick it to an enormous level, you'll come down and spend a day with us in Jacksonville and look at us take apart and put together 5 businesses all in one day, which I think is going to be an outstanding day. So hopefully what you'll do is you'll take advantage of this offer. You'll spend $499. You'll come on the 2 webinars. You'll use the resources. You understand that Perry backs things up with some pretty outrageous guarantees. And most importantly, what you have to gain is a different, better business, a perspective that most people don't have. The difference is you can wish and hope and pray that it's all going to work out, or you can take action and do an investment in yourself, get serious about it, and what you're going to end up with is a capability that no one can take away from you ever again. An ability to walk into a situation and at will create a USB is an incredibly valuable skill set that you want to acquire. And frankly, at this price point, I think it's really way too low. But you know what? There you go. It's Perry's gift to all of you, and hopefully you'll take advantage of it. So I'd like to thank Michael for coming on and sharing some intimate details about his business. Not everybody would have the courage to do that, and actually being brave enough to take a USB and put it out there and have that bold guarantee. Obviously, Perry's insights and his guarantee are just, he's showing it right there. He's leading by example. And, of course, Bryan, who, I can't wait to hear what you're going to talk about in the USB breakthrough webinars, because USP is that powerful. So hopefully you'll come along with us and you'll experience it. And then next year, you can be that person who said, you know what, I saw that breakthrough. So thank you, everybody. Perry, any last words?
Yeah, well, I just want to mention the only reason it's possible to get a 4-on-5, which is really extraordinary, is because we were already having a staff get together where everybody's planning for the new year in Jacksonville, and so we had just added a day to everybody's schedule. It would cost $10,000 or more if we were doing this under any other circumstance. So you know, the Ninja Dojo option is quite an advantage. We only got 5 seats, so if you want one, you should grab one right away, because I am quite sure they will sell out. And look forward to helping you completely reinvent your sales story in penetrating a cluttered marketplace. And, you know, let's get rid of a lot of frustration, because let's face it, a lot of people are feeling like I'm a me too and I'm just in a bidding war and this really sucks. And the reason you feel that way is it does really suck. And it's really nice when you clearly stand apart from everybody else and you become the tail that wags the dog.
Excellent. Bryan, any last words?
USP is the absolute core and center of your business, and believe it or not, building a USP is actually simple, not complicated, and that's my job. So that's what I'll teach you. So looking forward to it.
Excellent. And Michael, what would you say to anybody who's sitting out there going, you know, I don't know, should I really do this? Yes or no? What would you say to that person, Michael?
I've always said that the best thing about learning from Perry is that he leads by example. So I think even the fact that, you know, people have it out there, they've got his money back guarantee on this. People are going to, you know, you're going to multiply what you spend on this 100%. It's bound to have an absolutely 100% positive effect on your business. And I got involved with Perry in the same way. When I took bobsled run, it came with a money-back guarantee. So I thought, well, what's the risk? He's really saying if I do this work and I don't see this benefit, he'll give me my money back. So why not? And now it's not only did I see the benefit and get my money's worth, now I come back to him saying, well, what else? What more can I give you? You know, how much money do you want? Where else can I invest it? So yeah. It's you can't ask for better than someone who leads by example the way Perry does. So you're crazy to pass this up.
Well, thank you, Michael. And all I can say is remember that Josh is out there at Skype ID Planet Perry. Hopefully you got a lot out of this. Frankly, it's amazing that, you know, Bryan put out exactly what Rosser talked about. Most of you who are on this call probably have never seen that book. And all I can tell you is that those 3 steps are the key to USP. But understanding and learning it from Rosser, very hard. Learning it from Bryan, very straightforward. And when he says it's simple, you know, it's simple because it's gone through a brain that figured it out. You know, I'm always reminded of the fact that if Newton invented calculus, who taught him?
The friendlier nature of Bryan's headshot should be enough to get that point, right?
There you go.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody. Sign up, join up, and like I said, if you have the courage, come on down to Jacksonville and the 4-on-5. It'll be a lot of fun, but you have to do the USP thing. It is going to be awesome. 2 webinars, 3 action items, and you know, it is something that is going to be, I think, really special for this year. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, John. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.